This is the CZ Shadow 2 Optics Ready variant that I just purchased. Comes in a decent plastic hard case for range use. Probably wouldn't want to travel with it. It comes with 3 19-round magazines, which are very nice, with the +2 base plates on a 17-round standard capacity. And it comes with some recoil shock buffers, and it comes with some wrenches. So get that out of the way. This gun has been on my list since it came out, and I love CZs. I have a CZ75B Omega, P09, P10F. I have a CZ Brent 2, a CZ Scorpion. I mean, I'm just collecting CZs at this point, and this is one of the ones that I'm most excited about. Of course, as you would expect, the machining, the finish, fit, quality is all top-notch. I only paid $1,200 for this gun, and it is a steal of a deal at that price point. So of course I had to enjoy and appreciate this gun in its factory configuration and take it to the range before I did any modifications to it. It has a really great trigger. The double action is very smooth, a bit heavy, probably 8.5 pounds. But one thing about these variants is they don't have the firing pin safety block in there. So you don't have the staginess of that being actuated as you pull the double action. Now the single action is really great. A little bit of take up. Nice defined wall, little bit of creep, and then a crisp break with a bit of over travel. And the reset is nice, short, audible, tactile. This has a lot less creep than the Omega trigger variants by far. And also it has a factory provision for over travel adjustment. So I just quickly adjusted the over travel out of this thing. So the single action looks like this now. 3 1/4, 3 1/4, slightly over 3 1/4. So that's the factory trigger action. Weight, this safety. It's a little bit mushy, a little bit vague. I would like it to be a little bit more positive and notchy. One more small gripe I have about this pistol is the fact that it doesn't have rear slide serrations. It has really nice, grippy, functional front serrations, no rear serrations. If you're going to put an optic on this, you're probably not going to use them, but if you want to shoot it with iron sights, it'd be really nice to have them there. Like they did with the CZ P10F Optics Ready. Optics Ready platform, the slide is a little bit wider and has a little bit more mass to it, which of course will slow down cycle time. It will increase muzzle flip a little bit, but I'm willing to sacrifice that tiny bit of performance for the convenience of having an optic mounting platform already on the pistol and not having to pay to have it milled or something like that. These are all the action components that are going in the gun. They're all from Cajun Gunworks. This is essentially their standard package for the Shadow, which is part number 75800. Except since I'm doing a single action conversion, I did not get the disconnector, and I only need one of their hammer pins because the same hammer pin holds the disconnector in the hammer and also the hammer strut to the hammer. So since I'm not running a disconnector, I'm only going to be using one hammer pin. I also only went with the 13-pound mainspring. Their kit comes with a 13 and an 11.5 pound. In addition to that, I went ahead and added the hard chromed barrel bushing. So we got their race hammer and adjustable manual safety sear, and the floating trigger pin. And then I also went ahead and got their starter punch because it's $7, and the issue with the factory trigger pin on these is that it's kind of mushroomed actually on both sides, so it's hard to get out, and then you can't actually really reuse it. You got their sear spacer that is needed for use with their sear reduced power trigger spring. We have an extended firing pin with their reduced power firing pin spring, and this firing pin and this reduced power firing pin spring is needed to use with their reduced power mainsprings as well. This is the thumb safety I got to replace the one that the firearm came with. It just has a nice big ledge for my thumb on the left-hand side because I'm right-handed. The factory safety on the right here is so narrow that it's actually kind of difficult to actuate, so this is just going to be a lot nicer in that regard as well. Got this Cajun Gunworks safety detent spring. It's slightly longer than the stock one, so hopefully that'll make the thumb safety feel more positive. This is a CZ custom extended slide stop. You can see it just pokes out a little bit proud of the factory one there and has a wider ledge on it. Cajun Gunworks makes one of these too, but I don't like the looks of it, so I went ahead and got this one. I want a wider ledge here because I want to be able to get my right hand thumb around that extended safety and still be able to drop the slide. I also went ahead and knocked down some high spots and took off some sharp edges here to make it easier to get in and out. I don't like beating on these with a magazine base pad. I just like it to where I can barely push it out with a finger. Here are all the parts that are going to make this gun Parrot colors. So I have a shadow blue mag release button and the green shadow 2 magwell, Tony Systems purple base pads, the yellow gold, whatever you want to call them, grips that are the shorter length to go with the magwell, tactical sport profile, single action only trigger, and you need this for the single action only conversion. This has a provision for over travel right here and then a provision for pre-travel. Replacing the firing pin and firing pin spring here in the slide, and I went ahead and polished the radius on that firing pin retaining plate. I'm just curious about the tolerances. So we're right at 550 on that barrel OD, and then in this guy right here we're 554, 555, 556, 557, 558. So we're probably 554 to 558. So let's see what this guy is right here. 551 and a half, 552. So that's quite a bit tighter. Got that barrel bushing installed, no problem. It went into the slide, and it's retained with this roll pin right here, which also retains the front sight. Had no issues getting that reinstalled. I did have to open up the ID of it just a smidge. Everything's working on lock and really nice and smooth, and that will add a degree of mechanical accuracy to this pistol that I'll never be able to appreciate because I'm not that good of a shooter. So before I install these Cajun Gunworks action parts, I took a look at the sear, the hammer, and the mainspring. I polished the ends of the mainspring here. I ran a stone over the surfaces that are going to be pivoting up against other surfaces and took down some high spots. This came in with a really nice finish. It looked like this on the sear face, but I went ahead and polished it a little bit more, very, very delicately. I ran a stone over this face, and you can see where there's some little shiny high spots that were taken off around that machined edge as it's going to be pivoting in the frame. I polished those sear hooks, and it was really difficult because they're extremely short and they're not actually at a 90-degree angle to this face, so you can't rest your stone on this face and do it. But I got them polished. I think I did a good job. I didn't change any angles or break the edge on them. So just trying to squeeze every little bit of performance out of this trigger work. Got this bad boy all torn apart, and you can see here's the Cajun Gunworks sear and its needed spacer in the sear housing. This is where the set screw goes, and that just adjusts your clearance between the sear and the manual safety. This is the trigger bar, and I was starting to get some wear marks right here, so I went ahead and dressed this up with a really fine stone across the side of it and across the side of it here, because it slides back and forth in the frame. And then this little surface right here is where it contacts the sear, and this is the one that contacts the disconnector. Again, disconnector is being removed because I'm converting it to single action only. So I did shiny up this surface just a little bit and took down some high spots. These two tabs are what the slide rides on to disconnect the trigger as it reciprocates, so I went ahead and polished the tops of those guys as well. This is the factory trigger pin, and you can see it's a hollow tube that then gets mushroomed out on the ends when it's installed. It was a bugger to get this thing initially pushed through, so definitely get that starter punch if you're looking at taking a trigger out of one of these things. So I'm getting real nitpicky with this thing here, but even with this longer and stiffer safety detent spring, it wasn't quite feeling how I want it to feel. It wasn't still positive enough. So I took some pliers and carefully stretched this spring out a little bit to make it longer. And then I took a file and I sharpened up the tip of this little detent right here. So hopefully it'll engage a little bit more positively with the notches right there on the thumb safety. I'm going to go with the Holosun 507C for the optic on this gun. I really like these things. And for the plate, I'm just going to use a factory CZ plate, RMR footprint, of course. This is only $50. I was eyeing the Cajun Gunworks one that has the backup iron sight machined into it. It's never in stock, and I just don't really need backup irons on this. I've also tried a C&H precision plate on my CZ P10 optics ready, and I wasn't impressed with that, so I ended up going back to a factory CZ plate on that gun anyways, and I figured I'd just start there with this pistol as well. Another interesting thing to note is there's the Shadow 2 plate. Here's a P10 plate. Same exact optics mounting platform, it's just the front of the plates are cut a little bit different for the profile of the slide. The slide block-off plate with the factory rear sight on it that it comes with is pretty hefty, so I was curious about the weight difference between this and then my plate and optic to see how much mass I'm adding to the slide. So I'm going to take a look at this. 2.075 ounces. And here we have plate, plate mounting screws, optic mounting screws, and my optic 2.580. So that means with the optic setup, I'm only adding a total of almost exactly a half an ounce to the slide mass. Well, here it is, final configuration. I am so happy with how it came out. So I think I nailed the Parrot colors. The yellow grip, green magwell, and red trigger are all on the Czechmate Parrot, and then it has a blue optic mount and a purple slide racker, so I just have the little blue and purple accents there. Really stoked with the colors. I think it looks pretty rad. The single action conversion produced an unbelievable trigger pull. And this has pre-travel adjustment, so I dialed up as much pre-travel as I want. Pre-travel, nice defined wall, crisp snap, no creep, no over travel. And the reset is unbelievably short. This is one of the best single action triggers I've ever felt. The reduction in creep from the factory configuration is largely due to this Cajun Gunworks hammer, because the hammer hooks are shorter, so the sear doesn't have to move as far before it lets go. Everything's just butter smooth on this gun too. So we'll get some trigger pull weights here and pull it right at the bottom, which is where I put my finger on this trigger. Just over 2¼ pounds. Just under 2½. Right at 2½. So this trigger ended up being somewhere between 2¼ and 2½ pounds. It's so crisp and snappy. It feels amazing. One other thing is that lengthening the safety detent spring and filing the point on that safety detent made this safety super crisp and positive. It feels like a 1911 safety now, and the profile with that thumb ledge right there, it just fits my hands perfectly. With this factory Shadow 2 magwell, you definitely need different base pads on your magazines for them to fit. The factory +2 base pads that come with the gun will not lock in anymore, but that's nothing a little Dremel work can't fix. So that's all I've done to this one. Good to go. And you can see I didn't have to take a whole bunch off. Well, of course, this gun was fantastic right out of the box, and now it's even better. The performance on the range is unbelievable. It's so much fun to shoot. The trigger is unbelievable. The ergonomics, the weight of it, the recoil impulse, all that stuff. Love the red dot on it. Wrapping this thing up, it's sick. It's exactly how I want it, and I'm real happy with it.